Welcome to ACSOM. It's 12:30 p.m. and you know what time that means. It's time for the Monday Club. I'm Tony Haggerty, and as always, I'm joined by the wonderful Amy Canavan. How are you, Amy?
I'm good, Tony. I'm good. Happy to be here. It's been an interesting weekend, isn't it? There's plenty to discuss, but I'm looking forward to it. I certainly am. How are you?
I'm good. Yes, I'm good. Thanks for asking. And as always, I'm accompanied by the dedicated follower of tracky fashion. It's Russell Boyce. Russell, how are you?
I'm good, Tony, mate. It's Monday. It's the Monday Club. I'm in a velvet number this week, mate. Velvet Adidas number. Who would have thought such a thing existed?
Indeed, but it's looking particularly smart and lovely. So, as I say, top man, fashionista, I think.
I wish I didn't have to pay for it all, Tony.
That's very true. Adidas, if you're watching, come on, sort the man out.
I know.
Anyway, a quick game of ACSOM Anonymous here. I'm Tony. I'm 49 next month. I'm a Celtic supporter, but I'm not a season ticket holder. And I guess my age, that certainly classes me as a Celtic da, doesn't it? Now, I don't know if I'm even allowed to air my views, let alone present a programme as big as this on roaring free scoring. Celtic. I'm going to do it anyway. And here's the thing. I don't own hundreds of Celtic views or Celtic strips. Here's the sum token of my Celticness. There's a wee gom badge that I wear every now and again. There you go, eh? Now, I don't know if that makes me less of a Celtic supporter than anyone else out there, but there you go. But
since we're showing off, you know, Tony, what makes us a Celtic fan? I've got an LED light, if that counts, guys. Does that count? Am I in the gang? Am I allowed to talk about the famous Glasgow Celtic? You know.
You got that my badge.
A gift from Mr. Haggerty. That was. We watched the Scotland England game together, so that was a really kind gesture from yourself to give me that light. So actually, I suppose in theory, I'm still not invested enough in Celtic yet, have I? Because it was a gift.
Well, I believe that I'm a member of some kind of cult. You know, the cult of ACSOM. Beware the cult. You know. But hey, if that's the case, this is a real. You'll get this. If that's the case, and I'm a member of the Green Oyster Cult. Don't fear Mark Reaper. There's
very good.
A reference for you there. Amy's
that's clever.
Talking about.
That's clever. The Green Oyster Cult. Very good. Don't fear the Mark Reaper.
Yes, don't fear the Mark Reaper. There you go. It was an old song, Amy, by a band called Blue Oyster Cult called Don't Fear the Reaper. There you go.
That's very good.
Yeah. Anyway, let's move on. Now, you can see upon the strapline there, has Ange Postecoglou got you excited yet? 22 days until Midtjylland, the European game. Now, Amy, I'm going to come to you first because Russell and Laura did a fantastic show yesterday about Ange Postecoglou's first public utterances alongside Dominic Mackay, and I just wanted to gather your thoughts on that. What did you think of it all? What did you make of it all?
The conference as a whole?
And the fan media thing and all that. And was words what he was saying.
Yeah, I'll be honest, all in all, I thought it was fantastic, you know, and it's a massive, I wouldn't even say step, I would be really optimistic here, and I'd say it's a massive leap in the right direction in all forms of the club. You know, I think if you break it down, you know, getting the fan media in and the proper fans, like you say, whatever you want to delve that into, but, you know, anyone who was invited and anyone who participated in that sort of on Friday, they have Celtic at the heart of what they do, and it is clear, it is at the forefront of all workings. So there's no doubt about that. And I think, you know, all in all, I don't know what you want to say, 95%. I think it was fantastic. You know, there were great questions asked. The interaction was fantastic. You know, I think both Dom Mackay and Ange Postecoglou really interacted well and came across really well. Then if you want to break it down even further and say, right, what did Ange say and how excited have you got by that? I thought he was outstanding. You know, I think he came across really. I think his kind of been a little bit reported that's maybe not his cup of tea, you know, the press conferences and that, but it didn't come across that way. I thought he came across really, really well. He was speaking just like the normal man, but with a man with a real vision, a clear vision, and that's something that Celtic have been severely lacking. And then if you look into Don Mackay, you know, that is an extremely well-versed man in communications and media and any sort of discussion. I was extremely impressed by him. And again, and I understand this, you could be a little bit, Celtic fans, football fans are fickle, and you could say, right, well, you can talk the talk, but you've got to walk the walk. But right now, all we can do is really talk the talk, sorry. We've not got to that stage of walking the walk yet. You need to remember, Dom's not even in position. You know, that's the 1st of July. I don't even know what date today is it 28th, something like that. So we've got a few days still to go. So I think he said everything, you know, he ticked all the right boxes. He said everything that you'd really want him to say. But, you know, if you want to look at it in the way that now he has to walk the walk, now he said it all. So he really has to, because we can all go back now and say, well, you said this. He's outlined it. You know, so he's put his head above the parapet really before he's even started. And I like that. I like a little bit of confidence, that little bit of assurance. And I think that's, in a nutshell, I came out quite assured. From both Ange and from Dom. I feel I now know a little bit what sort of direction this club is going in. And, you know, I think maybe for the last, I don't know, would you maybe say 19 months, I have no idea what direction this club is going in. But I feel now that we are, you know, I understand a little bit the sort of, you know, even the markets we're going to be starting to delve into, the sort of way that we wanted to develop the academy. Where we're even going to put the academy on sort of the back foot? No, we're going to put it on the front foot. We're going to look at clubs around our sort of level, but worldwide, but also the clubs a little bit above us. You know, the guys who are leading that sort of way, and that's just about the academy, but also, you know, bringing in overseas players and just the whole way that we really need to develop as a leading football club and a size that we can do. So, you know, I was really, really impressed by Mackay, and I was really, really impressed by Ange, and I think he's definitely, and Russell, you touched upon it yesterday. I think we were all kind of thrown a little bit off guard a few weeks ago when the first initial, you know, talks of Ange were coming in, and we were all a bit like, wow, who is this guy? And again, we've all said it ourselves that we probably didn't put in the research that he deserved. And again, you can hold ourselves up to that, and we made the mistake. But you know, he's certainly not a yes man, and we never said that he was going to be a yes man, but we said that's the one thing he can't be. But I've came out of Friday under no qualms that this is a guy who's not going to suffer any fools. And again, that's what you need, and you certainly want at the helm of Celtic.
Russell, brilliant, Amy. Like that. Good shout.
Outstanding, Amy. What a start to the show, by the way. I'm under the caution now, Tony.
No, well,
I'm off.
We're all friends here. We're all friends here. We're all non-season ticket holders here. All right.
Yep.
You know what I love? One thing he said that I actually loved. He said it's all just words. You know why I loved that? Because this is a guy that wants to get on with managing a football club.
Yes.
It's right. That's that I took from that. It was like, I'll sit here, I'll jump through these hoops, I'll speak, and I'll outline some of my plans, what I'm going to do, but I just want to be out there. I want to be out there, and I want to be doing what I do best, and I want to be out there doing what has brought me notoriety and what's brought me to this football club, and that's managing footballers, young footballers, older footballers, any footballers. I just want to immerse myself in this football club. That's what I got. That's what I took from it, and I thought, brilliant. It's like he's a hands-on kind of guy, and he just wants to be let to do the job now. You know, that initial meet and greet, as you say, maybe didn't feel comfortable with it, but at least he had the sense to turn around and say it's all just words, and mindful of the fact that talk is cheap, Russell. You know, and he'll soon find out for himself that the only football management that's acceptable in Glasgow is winning matches, and I think he just wants to get on with doing that.
Yeah, I said yes. I thought he came over really, really well. I've seen the comment coming in, which I've got to say is kind of mirroring maybe where I am to an extent. I mean, I'm not going to do a complete U-turn on my concerns about the appointment, but undoubtedly he's came over an impressive figure. What I loved, and I said this yesterday, just without wanting to repeat myself, but I did feel we had two guys that were very much a team and are very much in a partnership here. It feels like Don Mackay is very excited about getting Ange Postecoglou. I think our concerns, Tony, and we were I don't back down on what it's double down, but I don't back down on any of that because at the time it seemed it had all the hallmarks of a Peter Lawwell production. It did seem like the City Group links were just too intertwined and it was too familiar with what we did with Ronnie Dyla, and you just thought, is this guy being thrust upon Dom Mackay as the parting gift after they made an incredible failure to appoint Eddie Howe? To flip it, it looks actually like Dom Mackay maybe did get the name put to him, but seemed to have went, by the way, I worked in Australia and Japan. I know exactly who he is, and that actually tickles my fancy. And the enthusiasm, I like the fact there was no hesitation from Ange. Even though he's up in sticks from Japan, a club he's obviously built loyalty with, he's won a title with. It's not easy just to dismiss that, no one leaves clubs when they've been there a few years, especially in a new sort of culture that he's adapted to as well, to then jet off to another one. And yet Dom Mackay says there was no hesitation. I find that really, really encouraging. Like you said, Tony, looks like he just wants to get on with the job now. He's excited to be here. We've got a new CEO incoming who is excited that he is here. The manager's here as well. From what we've seen, it was a good start. Let's put it that way. It was a very good start.
There was a meme put out on Friday, Amy, and it was like people were saying, I wish my partner would look at me. Yeah. Dom Mackay looks at Ange Postecoglou, the start of a bromance. But as Russell said there, a partnership. The two of them seem to be speaking the same language. They seem to understand each other straight off the bat. And yeah, we can't say that we weren't initially sceptical. There's still that scepticism there. Your personal jury's out because you don't know how Celtic are going to line up, who's going to be playing for them. But as Russell said, it's a good positive start. To be honest, I thought he said a lot of things that I would expect a man holding that high office should say or would say. To me, and I've said this before, that it's the best job in world football. It's not, but to you and I, the Celtic supporters, it's the best job. And you want someone like that to come out, defend your club, speak very highly of it and say that they're pleased to be here, then it's an honour for them. So, yeah, I mean, kudos for that. I now just want to see him, see what he's made of. And we will judge him then, when the ball bounces for real. Our initial scepticism came from the fact that, maybe we didn't know too much about him, but we've got a wee bit of a handle on him now, Amy, so we can move forward in tandem together, which is what Dom and Ange seem to be doing.
Yeah, like you say, it's that partnership, and I think, and Dom Mackay said himself, it's about that connectivity between the fans and the club, but then it's also, you need that connection between the CEO and the manager. That whole whatever structure, which obviously we hope will sort of transpire in the matter of weeks and maybe even coming days, that we understand what the structure of the club really is. Again, they both touched upon maybe that people are going to come in, people are going to leave, but you need that cohesion really between the CEO and between the manager. And it seems from Friday that they are, like you say, singing from the same hymn sheet. They're going down the same direction. I think the right thing was said, obviously, and obviously we have to take it then at face value as well, is that Ange is going to have this blank canvas, and that is really basically what we all wanted and we all needed them to have, because we were assured really that was it, what Eddie Howe was going to be given. So if it was good enough for Howe, then it's got to be good enough for Ange. And again, that's all we can really ask for, that it wasn't going to be double standards, that no matter whatever we were going to be granting Howe, because then if we were going to be able to grant it to him, it means we had the realms of possibility to do that, then we have to give the same respect to Ange. And that's a great thing to take out from Friday as well. So there was a lot of positives, there really was, and I think, as you see, one of the best things really was to see that partnership in the flesh, and like you say, also there was the memes that it was like, get yourself somebody who looks at you the way that Dom looks at Ange, or it was all that Celtic da, sort of like looking down on a proud son, but it was, we can make a joke out of it, but it really did look like already there's that sort of that little connection.
Russell, to me, it gave you a wee feel good factor back, didn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
A dreadful season, and it just made you feel good. Now, we don't know if it will make us feel spectacularly good come next May, but there's a school of thought here that Ange, just, we've spoken about this before, free hit at Europe, but people aren't too concerned about European progress this season because they want Ange to focus on winning the title and the rewards and riches that come with that. Did you buy into that, or is it a case of why can't we fight on all fronts?
I think the vibe I get from Postecoglou is he's going to make a good fist of it. He will give it his all he wants to treat it as a free hit. To me, the Champions League qualifiers, I mean, we struck so lucky that in our worst season in a decade is the only season second place qualify. That is incredible fortune. So whilst we are in that position, we've got to give him every single tool to take advantage of it. Now, my issue with a lot of people saying transitional seasons, project seasons, all this sort of, I'm trying to think of a word here that I'm just incapable of saying, trajectory or conjecture, like that was it. Anyway, conjecture, we're getting there, trajectory, what? But basically, what my concern is with all this is, that's brilliant if you're only looking at your own club. What people seem to be forgetting is, when you're in transition or mid-project and in a season that could, I think it was Mo that put on Twitter about his first season in Japan, 12 wins, 13 losses, something like that. It wasn't great reading. If we were to have a season like that because we're heading in the right direction, we need to be aware, though, acutely aware, that also then further strengthens the opposition. So whilst you're focusing at your own project within and watching that develop, the enemy is getting stronger because they're getting access to the likes of a 40 million bounty if they win the league. Say next season we're nowhere near it, but we're progressing as a squad. That progression then is kind of difficult to gauge it, because what I'm trying to say is the opposition you're against is also enhancing its squad. It's going to have money's riches that it's not had for years. Right now we're already 25 points behind. You've got to be careful. And I got the vibe off Ange anyway that he's going to be grabbing the Champions League qualifier tie with both hands. He's going to put us in as best a place as he can. What I would do is absolve him of any blame if we were faced with an early exit from the Champions League, say, for example. I think his minimum sort of requisite when it comes to Europe would be make sure we're in the groups of the Europa League, though. Like, you've got to kind of be... I think we need at least that. I mean, it's important financially for the club. It's important for the development of the players. It's important to attract new signings as well, that you've got some form of decent European football. Without being a snob, I feel that if we do drop to the Conference League, I don't really think that's a deal breaker for players, but I still think Europa League's quite attractive. You only need to look at Kieran Tierney at Arsenal.
Amy, same to you. What do you think? Free hit at Europe, or concentrating domestic dominance again, or can you see them going hand in hand, that we can progress in both?
I've thought about it a lot over the weekend, because I think a few weeks ago I was asked this as well, and I think I probably jumped in a bit too quick, and I was like, no, Europe's still important, because the whole money factor and the whole appeal. And then I've really been trying to be a little bit more mature, maybe, and not just a little Celtic kid, and wanting the big European lights that have still never really been on show. But
that's just got a light you can give you a lot of.
Exactly. So yeah, exactly. There we go. We're sorted. It's I think we have to be a little bit more realistic. Like 22 days, that is unbelievable. I think I just keep thinking, right, wow, June's flew in for me. I still think like, Scotland still got to play in a major tournament. I think these last few weeks have totally flown in, and the way that whole sort of period, that this 22 days is nothing. It's such a little time, and it will be upon us before we know it. So I think it's going to be really, really tough to have a real good goal at Midtjylland this year. I think more just because right now we still don't. I think, Russell, you said it yesterday. I think potentially Lee Griffiths could be our number one striker. Who knows if he'll even be under contract by the time that we face them? His contract runs out at the end of this month. So there's a lot of, it's still too many if, buts and maybes, and I think that's maybe why I think we just need to take a little bit of a step back with Europe. But then at the same time, I'm not wanting to then say like we are, accepting second best, because we can't be. That's not the complacency that you can have at a club like Celtic. But we need to, maybe wake up and smell the coffee and realise this is the position we're in. And as excited as we can be about Friday and how great the future looks, that's maybe talking a little bit too far into the future, not maybe just 22 days to get a decent enough team together to face a really decent Danish side. It's not, we're not playing a nobody here. We're playing a really decent outfit. And who knows, with the Euros, who will be back, who won't be, Callum McGregor really does need a rest at some point. And I hope to God that that's maybe happening about now. But again, it's tough. It's really tough. So for me, I'll be disappointed. Of course, I'm not going to be delighted. But if we do, or if we don't get past Midtjylland, I think you've got to maybe take it with a pinch of salt here and think about the bigger picture and think about, we need to get back on track domestically. But European football, I don't know, then I just go on a full swing and now I'm like, European football is vital again. So I just want to be, I haven't played under those lights. But I think European football of some sort is vital. Champions League, maybe not so much.
Well, you both spoke about reinforcements, which are badly needed. Yeah. Now, I like to do my homework and look around and see what's happening with potential
players of interest.
Persons of interest, Russell, exactly. Persons of interest, right. Now, a major person of interest has sprung up over the weekend, and it's Mario Vuskovic, Croatian under-21 international defender from Hajduk Split, and they're talking that he could be Ange Postecoglou's first signing. This guy's a progressive ball-playing defender, centre-half, and what I did notice, there was a real shift in the way this deal was being portrayed, because Celtic and Torino were meant to be battling it out, but from the Croatian end, it said that Celtic had blown Torino out the water with their financial package, because they're seemingly offered a 4-year deal and a decent, and really doubled what Torino were going to offer the boy. So it smacked to me of two things, right? One, urgency, I get that, but Celtic's shown a wee bit of ambition that they have maybe scouted this young guy, and he is what they require. People say, he's 19, but I don't think he ain't no project, because they're going to shell out maybe 4.3 million, 5 million euros is what Hajduk Split want from him. So they say that all the signs are positive, but even if Celtic don't get this deal across the line, at least they're showing ambition. And it's the kind of player that would get you excited, because he's young. Ange Postecoglou likes to work with young players. If this guy's been identified as being good enough, then here's hoping they can get that deal over the line. Maybe you've been reading about.
Yeah, I really have. And again, you've summarised it in a nutshell. Really, there it's shown a bit of ambition for the club. This is, like you say, he's a 19-year-old, but he has no project. It's not going to be like we'll need to play him, in a court side or whatever it may be. He can face Bonnigrows, but he looks like he's the product here. And again, there's big suitors after him. But like you say, that ambition, we're competing with Torino. Where we should be. We can sit here and we can say, yeah, we should be and whatever, but we've not been for the last few years, and we've lost far too many players to clubs of that sort of size and stature, because we just don't show enough interest, and we're not offering them first team football at a glance, or we're saying that it's going to be, like you say, a project, some sort of, it's going to have to be a development. If they're ready for the first team, then they're ready for the first team. Age is just a number. I don't like now that obviously we're starting to sign players that are younger than me. It's when I realise I don't like it. But
you've not reached the Celtic mass status yet, Amy. That's a long way off.
Hopefully but it's exciting. Like you say, it's the sort of player that you want the club to be going for. It's Chris Hire again. Really, Chris Hire was a bit younger. I appreciate then he did need a little bit of developing, but the best thing he ever done was obviously go out to Kilmarnock, and he was chucked in. That was really when he was made into a centre half, because he came as that centre mid. So I understand, I'm sorry contradicting myself there, but it's where we should be looking. We should be looking at these younger sort of players, but let's chuck him right in. I think everyone's sort of talking about, do we start, Beaton and Welsh at centre halves for the Midtjylland game? But there's young Leo Helst, who was at Ross County last year. Again, he was really promising, and I did catch snippets of him as well. So there are players there. We just need to break down that barrier now that we've sort of installed in the club, that, you know, age is a barrier. You know, it shouldn't be. Why is, you know, we could talk about Dembele, Armstrong, who Flex, who's obviously went down to West Ham, you know, and I'm not saying that they're going to be week in, week out starters, but they have to be in and around that setup. So we are in a centre-half crisis, we're in a defensive crisis, and we probably have been since about 2016. But it's good to finally see the club showing a little bit of ambition, you know, and that naturally we can ask, as we're talking about this rebuild and going down different routes, avenues that we've not been down in a good few years, and it's all part of the new way, the new era.
Russell, in the past, we would have read a day later Torino set to gazump Celtic for this boy. You know, that kind of thing. You know, there'd been interest one day, then the next day's headline would have been Torino set to blow Celtic out of the water. So these kind of things are progress. As I say, even if it doesn't come to fruition, at least we're looking in the right places, or we're starting to certainly look in the right places and be ambitious. And when I read about this guy, I'm quite excited. I'd like to see them land this boy and you know, get it over the line.
Yeah, I totally agree. Could you hear the ice cream van there? Was that too loud?
I heard that, yeah.
Give me 2 seconds. I'll shut the window.
I thought you were away chasing it, Russell.
It's been a while, mate. I used to go out with empty ginger bottles. That's how I used to pay for my ice cream. I know, man.
You're not alone.
But no, I think we spoke about it last week. I'll still sit on the fence as to whether I'm convinced Celtic are now a forward-thinking, you know, meaning business in the transfer window. I'm a wee bit wanting to believe that, of course, but I'm also a wee bit like, your hand's been forced because you made such a clock up of the summer. You know, it's been an absolute disaster since Lennon left, really, let's be honest. We should have been never in this position, do you know what I mean? Whereas, if it has forced their hand, what I'm hoping is they learn something from it. And they start going, do you know what? Getting deals done quickly and swiftly and acting like a big club, firstly, gets you a far better success rate, keeps managers far happy, and enhances our squad far more than last-ditch loan bids for EPL players and stuff like that. I just didn't want, as I think it's inevitable that there will be a couple of loan signings, by the way, because of the amount of rebuild that's required. And I'm not absolving them of blame for that, though, because the fact is we shouldn't be in that position, and that still needs to be held to account. But going forward, you would like to think if they do get this deal over the line quickly and are outbidding the likes of Torino, you would like to think that's like, do you know what? It actually feels good to do that. It excites fans more as well. It gets a buy-in from supporters when they're seeing the club getting top targets. And how often over the last few years, and Kaylee was touching on it, have we missed out on our top targets and went to the second list? I just don't think that's, I think as well, considering the amount of what the squad needs right now, let's be honest, we are really going to be needing the top list players this time, you know, the ones that are identified early, because there's so much work to be done, in that squad. We can't afford to be doing a patch-up job here. This has to be, if there's been a player like Vuskovic identified and he is going to come in and he's going to be a first-team player, the sooner we can get that deal over the line, the better, with the qualifiers looming. And obviously even the new SPFL season looming. We discussed last week, without going over all ground, quarantine delays and things like that for players. So these deals are all going to take far longer in terms of bidding for a player than actually seeing them in a Celtic tracksuit than what they did before. It's now important that we get the deal bit done as quickly as possible. If everyone's on board with the signing, get it over the line quickly, because there's a few hoops to jump through before they can actually start wearing the hoops.
Well, very good, Russell. On that note, there's a couple of other players who have been on Celtic's radar before, who've now come back on the radar, and one of them's a Utrecht winger called Girano Kerk. Now, 24-year-old, and I think Leeds and Celtic were supposedly in Celtic. I think tried to get him in the January window, 2020, failed. And then he was supposedly going to Leeds for 10 million, but all that kind of talk has died down. But I think he scored 9 goals last year and 7 assists, and he's got 42 goals in 173 games for Utrecht. Now, Ange Postecoglou likes to play with wingers. He fits that kind of criteria and fits that bill. 24, young enough, you know. And I read another stat that he had 112 dribbles in the Eredivisie, which is an average of 3.3 per game, and that was the most, right, of any player. So, you know, guys like that, if they can, again, if this guy's come back on the radar, go and get it done. If you really want them, you know, that's what you're alluding to there, Russell. If you really do think this guy, who I believe is available again, and you know, and Utrecht are saying that he might be the subject of interest from a lot of clubs, but go and ask the question. You know my thoughts on these things. Ask the question and see if he'll come. And if he's a player that you want and he's been on your radar back in January, then it will only enhance the squad. Yeah, Amy, you agree with that?
Absolutely, and it's all about, you know, bringing in players to fit the style. There is no point bringing in, you know, defensive midfielders when we're only going to play two or whatever, or sometimes, who knows, maybe the system will only play one. Like, how many times we've done that over the years, and you go, do we really need that? You know, we need to, where are we weak, for starters? You know, we need to still really be building the spine of the team. I feel that there's still a little bit of, you know, light, we are still a bit light there. But then again, if the style is going to be that we're going to be really reliant on wingers, we look at our wingers right now. We've got, you know, James Forrest, who you're hoping is going to come back fit and ready. And again, and I think he worked really hard to get back into that Scotland setup. And I think he was maybe a little bit unfortunate to not see some more action there. But, you know, it's so he's going to be crucial to this. He really is. And on the other side, you've got Mikey Johnston, who you've got to, you know, he really needs to step up. It is now his time to step up if he is going to be playing as a winger, you know, because I think that is still his preferred position. But, you know, he gets chucked about everywhere in the false nine, sits back as the 10, but he can play there. So he needs to stake his claim now, because he's been in and around for a few years, and now it's time he really bucks up his ideas. He's hitting that prime age. And obviously, but again, that's the issue. A lot of it has been because he's injury curtailed. So we need, you know, if he's going to be number one, you at least need a backup to Johnston, because you can't guarantee that he's going to, you know, be able to see a whole season through. And not that you can obviously have that guarantee with anybody, but it's all about, you know, right, obviously if he's got a plan, he's got and it's going to be really, let's say, it's just reliant on wingers, then we need to get looking out there and looking in that market. If it's somebody that we've had sort of dibs on before, then let's go out and have a look at him again. You know, if we've notified, there's obviously a reason why he's on our radar. So let's go and really investigate why. If Ange is keen as well, it's all about, like you say, it's about going in and striking while the iron's hot. And then if there are other suitors, it means that there has to be something. You know, we're not going for somebody who's as a dead rubber. He's not really, you know, he's cutting the bill. Who knows, obviously, like you say, why things that have failed this season and whatnot in previous deals. But then, no, he's still on our he's still on our radar. So let's go and get him.
Russell, I'll say this to you about Kirk Van Persie. Robin Van Persie said this. Kirk is a player who basically has everything. He is fast, has vision, is technical, and can score. He can still play at a higher level in the near future. There you go.
Good endorsement, isn't it?
Yeah. You know, and as Amy said there, I quite like the fact that Celtic identifying a centre-half, because they need defenders, and that's the position that they need to sign players in. And also wingers. He plays with wingers, so they've identified a winger or someone else has came back on the radar from previous. So that's a good sign in terms of moving forward. They're not signing players for the sake of it. They're signing players to come in, to go straight into the team. That's my thinking behind that.
I think you're spot on, Tony. I think, see, when you look over the years, Celtic will probably would argue with you that they've spent a fair whack, you know, over the last decade. We think they've underperformed in the transfer market, or maybe not. We felt they've been a bit tight-fisted at times. Would that be fair? That they've maybe haggled a bit too much needlessly? Would that sound like that? They would probably look at their overall net spend and say, we've spent a fortune, guys. I think, though, that would be on the basis of quantity over quality. Yeah. I know it's a cliche, that statement, and I hate that, but I think realistically this time, if we're going to have a smaller squad, because the squad was too big anyway for me, it looks like there's still a lot of players to go. Let's just get diamonds in that team. Let's go out and get, and this is me throwing about figures, by the way, I don't take this literally, but let's say you had £15 million to spend. I would rather we had 3 £5 million players than 6 £2.5 million players, if that makes sense. I think too often we've found for every Virgil van Dijk, there is a Marion Shved or whatever. I'm not criticising him personally or anything like that. Just too often there's been a £2 million signing that's been made that hasn't worked out, that hasn't even really had much of a chance. Bayo comes to mind, even Sorrow to an extent, how long it took for him to get in the first team and then taken back out. And they're only a couple. I think the concern would be for Celtic is they're going to also, for every time I mention that, they'll say, well, we spent $5 million on Barkas, $5 million on Yeti. It still didn't work out. So you need to look at the transfer policy as a whole. The only thing I'm concerned about is if he was on the list January 2020, then are Celtic now still pitching players to the manager, and should it not be the vice versa?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. And another one who was on the radar, in fact, June 2019, was George Baldock from Sheffield United. And the reason I know this is because I spoke to Robbie Nielsen about him to do a backgrounder on him when I was with the Daily Record, because he worked with him for MK Dons. And Robbie Nielsen said it was one of the saddest things that happened when he was manager there, that Baldock left to go to Sheffield United, because they were a big part of what they did. So I got that article up because I wanted to refer, and he said, this is what he said about Baldock. He's a very athletic player. He's got a superb attitude and he works really hard at his game. He's a very good footballer and he would fit in well at Celtic. His biggest strength is he possesses real quality going forward, and he's also very competitive, which means he likes a tackle, which is another attribute I'm sure the Celtic supporters will like about him. He likes to get forward. He says he likes to get forward, and that's the way Celtic play. So he would fit in there. And he says, despite being a defender, he generally plays high up the pitch most of the time. So that strikes me as a wing back, an attacking full back. Amy, that's what Robbie Nielsen said, and he's worked with him. So you can't get any more kind of an endorsement than that. And again, Baldock's came onto the radar because they can get him now, because he stayed at Sheffield United, who ended up in the Premiership. You know, but I think he's now available again, and they're saying that Celtic are poised, or maybe will they resurrect their interest there. Again, Russell, I agree with your point that these are maybe old lists, but they still remain persons of interest.
I knew that was coming.
So, yeah, you know what I mean? So if that's the case and they want him, Baldock's a bit older, maybe 28. So, yeah, so they need to think seriously about that one, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, it's I think that'd be a great coup. It really would be. I think he's mastered he was a mainstay in Sheffield United. You know, he really was. Under Chris Wilder, I think it's 130 odd appearances, if I'm right. I think there's something like that I read over the weekend. And again, he's just an assured player. You know, he's got plenty of Premier League experience by him as well, Championship level as well, which is no mean feat. And again, it's a decent age to be coming up. It's that, you know, we're talking obviously about the youth, the 19, and that's we're wanting that as well. But you've got to have that little bit of balance. You know, it's got to be experience. We can't just, you're not going to win anything with kids. But it's you need that little bit of experience as well, and it'd be good to have. So it's about getting that balance, and I certainly would be excited by it.
I mean, I named 3 players there, Russell, because that's kind of the ones that are some are doing the rounds, but they excite me in terms of moving forward. And if Celtic could get them into the club and Ange could start to work his magic, you know, and there'll be other players that they're linked with, but these are the ones that seem to be kind of cropping up again and again for a reason, I would imagine. But if that's the case and they want these players, then go and get those deals done. Give the fans a wee bit of excitement as well, because it's all right being linked with them, but now's the time to take it forward and start getting things over the line. And because you need players, because this tie's coming up in 22 days' time. You know, you need bodies in the door, don't you?
Tony, I think you're spot on. I like what Amy said there as well. That blend, see the 3 names you've gave there. You've got someone with over 100 games in the Eredivisie. You've got someone who's, do you like my Dutch accent now? You've got someone who's young, upcoming talent in Croatia, which are still at present the World Cup finalists only from 3 years ago. So we know they do produce a lot of talent. We've got someone young and hungry coming in there. I'm not saying they're actually coming in, I just mean if they were. And then you've got someone with a heap load of PL experience now, and EPL experience, at the right age, the right maturity levels, also from these shores, so doesn't need the bedding in period that perhaps other signings would. That to me is a brilliant mix. When you look at those three names that you've just mentioned, Tony, now, obviously we can only speculate if they were able to get over the line or not, but I would like the idea of us sprinkling across this team a bit of experience. I feel we lack it. I always remember Martin O'Neill's team. I'm weird with dates of birth and stuff. I've said that on the pod before. I always know what years of birth like players were born in, that's bad. But anyway, I always used to be like, because I used to think 30 was old, Amy. It's not, by the way, really not. But I used to panic out O'Neill's team because I used to think they're all turning 31, 32 at the same time almost, you know. But what he'd done was when he brought in players, they were ready-made, they were straight out the wrapper into the team, mate, ready to go. Chris Sutton was 27, approaching 27 when he signed him. John Hartson was 26 when he signed him. Then you had like Alan Thompson, 28, Neil Lennon, 30. Guys that were just ready-made to go into the team. And I think whilst we can't adopt that policy in the sense that Celtic do tend to sign players that they would hope there'd be a sell-on fee for as well, or someone that they can then maybe even develop and sell for a greater enhanced fee, I think we need to also experiment a wee bit into the world of signing ready-mades for the here and now, which I just think we've took a wee bit of our eye off the ball on in terms of our recruitment policy and maybe just our attitude to the club as a whole of late. I think there was a complacency issue with regards to what the challenge was from our rivals. I think that was proven to be folly. I mean, they've excelled last season, were, you know, well worthy winners. Let's be completely honest with you. You know, did we take that challenge seriously? Well, we now have to. And we need that title back. It's as simple as that. And the only way we're going to do that, whilst, you know, I know the statement Amy was making was a famous quote from Alan Hansen about you'll never win anything with kids. I also think there is an element of truth. I think that was a freak class of 92 that they came up with. I don't see Celtic being able to do it with a team of Vusković's coming in. You're going to need a bit of experience in there. I mean, we were talking about the clamour to keep Lee Griffiths last week. I think a lot of that is based on his know-how as much as his ability. And I think we're going to need some guys with some know-how. And hopefully we've got, you know, if it's going to be, you know, balled up, then why not?
I was having a bit of a laugh here last night, Russell, wasn't I, on the DM when I said I love pre-season because it kind of threw up all sorts of weird and wonderful names and you know, players that nearly signed for Celtic. And my two in particular growing up were Gianluca Vialli, Amy, and David Ginola, who Celtic came incredibly close to signing both of these guys, right? And Russell didn't believe me, or he didn't know that
Vialli.
Aye, Vialli.
Yeah,
I saw that lovely picture of Vialli jumping on Mancini when they scored the second goal the other night, and it was just tremendous to watch, you know, because Vialli was a terrific player. Also linked with Rangers the year before. David Murray flew out to see Vialli's agent and was sent back because Chelsea had come in. He wanted to go to London. It went sour. Within a year, he was linked with Celtic, Crystal Palace. Celtic spoke to him. I think Wim Jansen wanted him. And he ended up staying because, as I said to Russell last night, Hulick got the bullet. And then he became the player manager of Chelsea. And they went from there. And Celtic ended up signing a guy called Henrik Larsson. I wonder whatever happened to him. So, yeah, you know, I love pre-season for that. That it used to be, you know, who we're signing. And for the first time in a wee while, reading these names and a couple of others, I've got a kind of buzz and real excitement back again about, you know, who's going to come in under Ange, and, you know, has he got you excited yet? Yeah, I guess he has. You know, someone who was sceptical on his arrival then, and I admit that, and I say my personal jury's out, but I think that's his 40. It's managing players, and obviously part of managing players is bringing players in that you want. So I'm excited to see who he does bring in and how he manages them and what happens moving forward. If you can get somebody like Vialli or Ginola, then so be it. But I have my doubts, Amy.
It's there's talking about diamonds in the rough. Maybe it will be a little bit hard to find one that good. But it's like you say, it's that excitement, and again, it's probably something that I don't know. I think everything's sort of just merging. It's kind of hard right now to think of that time again that we probably maybe did have that excitement. I can't recall this time last year having any sort of, excitement. But again, that's because we were in a pandemic and nobody was excited. So it's tough. So it's stretching the mind back even further to really be building up that sort of, like you say, the names getting chucked about, and it may not be a David Ginola, but it's we can hope.
Russell,
my favourite, I've got to quickly say.
Yeah, go
What's
on.
that?
You were checking for that story last night, the Vialli
Oh,
thing.
I couldn't believe it. I had no idea. I usually know stuff like that. I knew Ginola was literally at Celtic Park, but I had no idea about Vialli. My favourite one was Hacking Yakin, or Yakin Hacking, whatever you want to call him.
He was like every year.
Every year. I think his brother scored against us, but Hacking Yakin pulled the strings for FC Ball, which, funnily enough, did us a favour because it meant we went in the UEFA Cup, which ended up in Seville. But Hacking Yakin was linked every single summer after that for the next 5 years. I actually kind of ended up like really loving him as a player. If the Switzerland were the Euros or the World Cup, and I was like, he's a player, by the way, just in case we signed him.
That's the thing. You heard these names being linked, and then you would see them at a tournament, and you'd follow their fortunes because of that. And you would then see them fitting into a Celtic team. Or you envisaged it in your mind, and you thought he could do a job there, he could do this, that, and that's the beauty of being linked with, players that maybe you've not heard of. You start, and then you say, right, okay, and you maybe go and watch them. And it's easier now where you can access a lot of their detail. But back then it was major tournaments that you could only see them. I mean, I remember the transfer window when Rangers brought back Barry Ferguson and Celtic signed Craig Bellamy.
That's right. What was that like?
I mean, it's mental. It's just like a mental night of transfer activity with the two of them, going head to head, bringing in a big name.
That's right.
It's like unbelievable, and even guys that Robbie Keane coming up as well. You forget that a lot of good players have came to this country and tried it. So and that's the hope moving forward. I'm not saying you're going to get, we said, players of that calibre ever again, but you've got to start somewhere to get it back to hopefully those kind of days. We 650 grand on Larson. That's the best 650 grand Celtic I've ever spent. I don't care what MD says, it's arguably the best transfer piece of business in the club's history.
Of the world.
Well,
I can't, for pound, it's incredible.
You said the world, but certainly in Celtic's history, if there's a better transfer there, then I'm no doubt season ticket holders will inform me because I'm an but I'm just talking about that kind of thing. You can unearth these gems, Amy. You can get diamonds in the rough, as you say. If you're doing
and I'm going to mention two names, and I'm not trying to, compare, or I can mention four names, right? You can go Larson and Moravcik. I'm not trying to compare them, but it's the way that, we can find gems in the way that we found Gary Hooper, the way that we found Chris Commons, my personal favourite, Joe Ledley, and I am, by no means am I comparing what Moravcik and Larson done for Celtic to what Hooper and Commons and Ledley and the likes done, not a chance, but it's that same sort of, digging deep. So I understand that we're maybe, and I could be contradicting myself here, that we're, you're wanting to sign like a Baldock and you're wanting that little bit of experience, but you're also wanting to look out, like you say, to find a 19-year-old Croatians, the way that we're finding, obviously Moravcik was far older, like you say, Russell, but it's finding those little gems. Mikael Lustig, and like I say, Gary Hooper. Hooper is one that strikes my mind because I think the age that I was at, and I was like, I just thought, we've just made him out somewhere. No way is his name Hooper. He's going to be number 88. Like, this is just written in the stars sort of stuff. But look at the job that he went on to do. And I understand Chris Commons now is not the fan favourite that he was, but what a player he was, at that first Lennon spell, the work that he done, what was that season? How many goals did he score from that? Was it 35 goals or something like that he scored? And he wasn't even an out and out striker. Virgil van Dijk, Victor Wanyama, like they are out there. And and I understand that the problem that we're really wanting at Celtic here is that we're not just wanting it to be the odd Victor Wanyama's, Virgil van Dijk's, we're wanting it to be a much more familiar sort of storyline. But it's not going to be like that because it's too difficult. You know, the top clubs can't do it, so we're not going to be able to do it. But they are out there, and if we look hard enough, we have the right people in place, we can spot them. And again, all these players that we've sort of mentioned here, they're under the million. And I appreciate, Russell, and I'm totally with you with what you're saying, that, you know, you can't. I'd much rather if you had £15 million to go out and buy £3-5 million sort of players, but there is also the room for that. You know, finding a Wanyama, finding a Hooper, finding a Moravcik, finding a Larsson, they are out there. I
mean, in terms of Ange Postecoglou, then, two players that you mentioned, Larsson and Moravcik, came to the club because of knowledge Wim Jansen had of Larsson, and knowledge that Dr. Joe had of Moravcik. So Ange Postecoglou's knowledge has to be put to good use in this sense. And I'm sure he's well aware of that, and that's what excites me moving forward, because I know at some point or other he's going to bring in a gem, because he'll have worked with them, or he'll have knowledge of somebody who might have ducked under the radar of everybody and bring in again to come in and do a job. You know, so that's what you're tapping into as well. You know, Larsson came. I mean, Larsson did well with Feyenoord, but Moravcik came in a complete unknown, and I mean, just became a darling of the Celtic supporters just for the two of them, you know, for the unbridled joy that they brought to the supporters. And again, Russell, we get back to it, they got it. They just understood from the moment they walked in the door. They knew they were part of something special. And Ange said, I want players to know that when they walk through the door, they're going to be part of something special. I quite like that.
No, I agree with you. I mean, we were talking about when Ange was appointed, there was a lot of talk about Euro snobbery or some sort of terminology like that. See, when you talk about Lubo and Larsson, you know what they both had in common? They both scored goals, I think, at World Cups.
Yeah.
I think Lubo was at Czechoslovakia. Was it still Czechoslovakia then, I think? And he'd appeared at the World Cup. I'm going to guess that he scored just because he's Lubo. I know for a fact Henrik Larsson had scored at the 94 World Cups. I remember it when I was young. Yeah. So, as much as they did seem obscure signings, were we just ignorant to you know, the gems that these other countries had at that time, really? I mean, why would a guy who's got 40-odd caps for his national team, being a player that Zidane's idolised, why would we not know who that is? It's just a bit of ignorance, isn't it, really? Henrik Larsson coming in, I mean, guy scored at the third-place playoff at the World Cup in '94. He's already at Feyenoord. He's probably about 20 caps deep by the time he's joined Celtic, 20-30 caps maybe even by then. He's 26 years old. Lubo was 33 when he joined as well. Established careers these guys have got. So they maybe, when you look at a lot of their career stats, weren't as random as what maybe just we were a bit ignorant of. Do you know what I mean? But I think you're spot on. I think when you come to Postecoglou, you're going to think there's been someone in that Australia squad that he knows he can get at a good price. So he goes, I can count on him straight away. And he'll know all his personality traits like you're talking about, Tony, whereas there might be someone in the Australian team he thinks, yeah, he'd be wonderful, but he'll not settle. He'll take 6 months to settle. He might not be ideal. He's going to know these ins and outs. There could be someone in his team that they had at Marinos who we've never heard of, that we'll be ignorant all over again to, who maybe has 30 caps for Japan, who's got 6 months left in his deal, and Postecoglou knows all that already because he'll know their contract status of all these players. So there's going to be some out-the-box thinking that we would not have had, even with Mr. Howe, who was the guy that we were all apparently desperate for. We've just got to embrace this. There's no way of knowing how it's going to go, what's going to happen. But I think, based on what we've seen Friday from him, the ideas we're discussing right now, you can't help but feel a wee bit of excitement for the new season as well. And just a wee bit like the doom and the gloom and that dark cloud for last year is kind of alleviating now. And what I would also say was, it was very fascinating to know that season ticket sales are off the scale, according to Dominic Mackay, off the scale. That should create another wave of optimism, not just for us, but for the board and the more importantly, the manager as well, who'll feel he's getting a buy-in from the fans.
We've been accused of being negative, Amy, a lot on this pod, and we can't deny that we have. But I think today's been very optimistic and positive, and we're all exciting each other as we're talking about Celtic. So, I mean, I think we have to admit to being negative possibly in the past, but we're on board with this. We are behind Ange. Nobody at any time said they want him to fail. We were just naturally sceptical and possibly, as Russell said, maybe slightly ignorant, but we're finding out more and more, and I say often impressed with start with the way he speaks. But we're now just at that point where get the players in and set them up and let's see where we go. Let's see how we play. And I'm not saying, because I can't make snap judgments on them after one game or the European ties. Just want to see how they do, how they fare, how they react, how to what he's saying, how the players react to what he's saying and the style. Just to sort of see where we're at and where we're going. That's what we want to see happen now, isn't it? We're anxious for that now. Yeah, there's nerves there as well, nervous excitement too. But I think mostly excitement now. Just sort of let's do it. Let's see where we go.
I feel as well that the players. Sorry, Amy. I just quickly. I think the players needed this freshen up. I think the actual football side of things, the 11 players in the park, it needed a revamp. I think that season last year was the end of a cycle of that group of players, whether we won the 10 or we didn't. I think that's what's really exciting me, is it's time for a new team to be identifying with on the park. I think there'll be major changes, and let's embrace it. Sorry, Amy, that was rude.
Oh, you're quite all right. It's we're never going to please everybody. Ange is never going to please everybody. You hit the nail on the head. We have been negative, but we've been negative for the right reasons, really, because we've not been impressed, we've not been enamoured by the state of the club and where we find ourselves and where the club have ultimately led us to be. So it is now the case of getting excited and getting optimistic, and I understand there will be people coming in and we'll jump off this, and I can guarantee there'll be people going, oh, you are so easy pleased, it's been on press conference and you're getting away with yourselves and all of this. We've got to now embrace this. We can't sit here for however many months, and it has been months now, and say, we demand change, we deserve change, and we need change. And now that change has happened, we've had that first stage. We now can't sit here and go, nah, we're not really going to, back it and get on it. No, we have to get on board with this, and we have to, invest our time into it the same way we invested our time into demand and change. Because we're just going to sit here and there's just going to be such a snobbery now if we sat here and went, oh, well, we're not really happy with that, we're not really happy with that, didn't like what he said there, didn't answer that question. Maybe didn't answer, and I'm talking about Don Mackay as well as Ange Postecoglou, but maybe they didn't answer all the questions the way that we'd wanted to be asked. Okay, and I appreciate that. But Tony, and I know it, and Russell, as well. Anytime you ask a question in a press conference, the manager, we're not going to have total vision and have a clear scope of everything that's going on in the club. They're not going to unleash everything to us. But, we've had that a little bit of insight, and a little bit more in insight than I think we probably would have got if we didn't have that fan conference, that fan presser. So we have to embrace it, and we have to take the positives out of things now. We drew in on the negatives, and rightly so, and really picked and pinpointed the things that we didn't like. Okay, we didn't like that we weren't getting a connection, that the club weren't listening to us. They are now listening to us, and they are now letting us in. They're maybe not letting everybody in, and they're maybe not letting the right people in some people's opinions, but fans are getting let in, and fans are getting to talk directly to the manager. They're getting to talk directly to an incoming CEO. This is groundbreaking stuff. This is the right direction. And if you can't sit back and think, I'm really proud of my club, and I'm quite impressed with my club that this is the step that we are taking, then you need to take a look at yourself, because I appreciate not everybody is going to be pleased, but this is a step in a direction that if you said 6-7 months ago, you'd be biting your hand off, because it seems so far. This was, a club that were literally given added value, and I do this because what was that added value? And we were having to put up with this. Now we're in a position that our manager is sitting and talking about protecting our club and taking a vision and putting enthusiasm into the academy. It's the way that we all wanted to go 6-7 months ago. So now the fact that it is getting spoken into truth, and again, and right now it is all still talking the talk and it's not walking the walk. We have to, we have to take this as a massive leap forward and a real positive.
I mean, to quote Lawrence Conley, who says, and I said at the start, it's only words, and we're only talking about Celtic. That's Lawrence's take on it all. We're just talking about Celtic, that kind of laid back, you know.
Totally, mate. Totally.
And is it, isn't it? You're talking about something that you care about and you're passionate about and that you love.
Yep.
You know, and I think, and I think that's quite a neat summary. You know, gives you an insight into Lawrence Conley's mind as well. You know,
Brilliant.
We're only talking about Celtic. Sling back.
That's all we're doing.
You know, that's
all we're doing.
You know, you go, Russell.
I just think what Amy's saying there. I mean, I think, you know, when Celtic are making steps forward and engaging with fan media, it is something to be embraced. It's something to say, look, this is wonderful. This is the engagement, you know, that we were talking about. All we spent last season was talking about disengagement between board and supporters. Well, seeing they take strides to try and repair that, I applaud them for it. The same way we complained when we felt that they were shutting up shop essentially last season. We called them out. But to be fair, when they do something right, I think it is also on us when we get these opportunities and these platforms to speak to X amount of thousands of views, you know, it'll get each day. It's important that we applaud the club when they get things right and that it's fed back to the club because they'll know. And I don't want to be on a bus, obviously a bus, where we are playing like, you know, downing it, you know, putting down every single attempt they make to get something right. I think it's important to recognise that, yeah, maybe not all aspects of the fan media thing was perfect, but I thought it was really encouraging. And I liked when Don Mackay says, remember, we've came to see you first before we're going to the broadsheets and the other newspapers up the stairs. I thought, well, do you know what? That's another step in the right direction. We should be recognising those as much as we recognise the flaws Celtic have made of late.
Well, I have to say, I've been the positive non-season ticket holding Anthony Haggerty. That's been the positive non-season ticket holding Amy Canavan, and the positive non-season ticket holding Russell Boyce. That's been ACSOM Monday Club. Hope you've enjoyed it. All the best. Thanks, guys.